ever get that feeling? Like the system is kind of rigged.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how hard you work, it's tough to get ahead. That's kind of where this idea of basic income starts, right?
Right.
What if everyone, like regardless of their job or anything, got a regular check from the government?
Just,
No strings attached.
yeah, regular payment.
Yeah.
No strings attached.
That's pretty radical, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic, and
But it's been gaining some traction.
it's not just some fringe theory anymore,
Right. And today we're going to dive deep into it.
We're seeing real-world experiments. We're seeing, countries debating it seriously. So,
Is it a root? Is it a ruse? Or is
Oh,
it
yeah.
something kind of in between?
yeah, it's really fascinating to see how an idea that's been around for centuries is suddenly front and center.
Yeah, and we've got a pretty diverse stack of sources here.
Yeah, we do.
We've got excerpts from a book by this leading basic income expert, Guy Standing.
Guy standing.
We've got reports on what happened when they actually tried this in Namibia and India.
Yeah.
We even get a glimpse into how Iran's handling things with cash transfers.
That's what makes this so interesting, right?
Right.
It's not just theoretical. We can look at what happens.
It's real world.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
can put this idea into practice.
Yeah. So before we get lost in the weeds here, let's get back to basics.
Okay.
When we say basic income, what does that mean?
All right. So
Paint me a picture,
imagine this.
right?
Every month, without fail, you get a payment from the government.
Huh.
Enough to cover essentials. Food, housing, the basics.
Okay.
And the key here is unconditional.
Unconditional.
No hoops to jump through, no proving you're deserving. It's a right,
Not a handout.
not a handout.
Okay, so not like winning the lottery,
No,
more like a safety net that everyone gets.
exactly. It's about ensuring a basic level of security, not making everyone rich.
Yeah.
Think of it like the foundation of a house. You still need to build the rest,
Yeah.
but at least you're not starting from bare ground.
Right. That makes sense. But haven't we always had things like welfare programs or unemployment benefits?
Sure.
How is this different?
Well, those programs are often means tested,
Yeah.
meaning you have to prove you're below a certain income level to qualify.
Right.
And that creates all sorts of problems. Bureaucracy, stigma, and sometimes it even discourages people from taking on work
Yeah.
for fear of losing those benefits.
Right. It's like a catch-22. You need help, but getting it might trap you in a cycle of needing more help.
Exactly. And basic income cuts through that by being universal. Everyone gets it, no questions asked.
Got it.
It takes away the shame, the complexity of traditional welfare systems.
Hmm.
And this isn't a brand new idea either.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to see that this concept goes like way back,
It does, yeah.
even to ancient Athens.
Exactly. Guy Standing takes us on a journey through history in ancient Athens.
Yeah.
They actually paid people to serve on juries. Can you imagine that today?
Whoa, sign me up. But getting back to the 21st century,
Yeah.
why is basic income getting so much attention now?
Well, we're living in a time of massive change.
Yeah.
Right? Technology is disrupting jobs left and right.
Right.
Wealth inequality is growing.
Mm-hmm.
People are feeling, increasingly insecure about the future. Traditional economic and social safety nets aren't really cutting it.
Yeah, and Standing makes a strong case that these old systems are actually contributing to those inequalities.
Right.
He talks about the precariat, these folks that are stuck in unstable, low-paying jobs with no security.
Mhm.
Is that who this basic income idea is aimed at?
It's definitely a big part of it. Think about the gig economy. All those delivery drivers, freelancers, they're working hard, but they lack the traditional benefits and protections.
Right.
Basic income could offer a safety net while allowing them to pursue better opportunities.
So it's not about being lazy. It's about having the freedom to choose work that's actually worthwhile.
Exactly. And beyond the economic arguments, there's a strong moral case for basic income.
Okay.
Standing highlights research showing that when people don't know their place in society,
Mm-hmm.
they overwhelmingly support ensuring everyone has at least a basic level of economic security.
It's like deep down, we all kind of know it's the right thing to do,
Yeah.
even if it benefits others more than ourselves.
It's a powerful insight. It challenges the idea that we're all just self-interested individuals.
Right.
And it points to a more cooperative, compassionate vision of society.
Okay, so we've got a decent picture of what basic income is and why it's relevant now, but let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
What are the main arguments for it? Why would we want to do this?
Well, one of the most compelling arguments is about social justice.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a world where a handful of Individuals and corporations control vast amounts of wealth, while so many others struggle. Basic income could help redistribute some of that wealth more fairly.
So leveling the playing field a bit.
Exactly.
Okay.
Standing uses the example of Middlesbrough, a town in England that was once a hub of industrial wealth, but is now facing economic hardship.
Oh, interesting.
It's a prime example of how wealth generated in one place can benefit others while leaving the original contributors behind.
Right.
Basic income could help address that imbalance.
So it's like giving back to those who helped build the wealth in the first place.
Exactly. And it connects to another key argument, what Standing calls the rentier economy.
Oh, okay.
He's basically saying that a lot of wealth today isn't earned through hard work or innovation, but simply from owning things, land, intellectual property, financial assets.
So you're making money just because you already have money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that creates a system where those who already have wealth get even wealthier, while those who don't fall further behind. Basic income could disrupt this cycle by distributing a share of that unearned wealth back to everyone.
Almost like a dividend for just being a member of society, like you have a stake in it.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that everyone has a right to a share of the collective wealth we generate as a society.
Right. Okay, so we've got social justice and this rentier economy thing.
Yeah.
What else makes a strong case for basic income?
Well, there's the whole idea of freedom and empowerment. Think about it.
Okay.
If you had a basic income guaranteeing your essentials, wouldn't you feel more free to pursue your passions, take risks, or even just say no to a job that was exploitative?
Yeah, it's like suddenly you have more options because you're not constantly worried about making ends meet.
Exactly. And Standing goes deeper than just the classic idea of freedom from government interference.
Okay.
He talks about non-domination, the idea that you're not subject to the arbitrary power of others.
Right.
Like a boss who can exploit you because you desperately need the job. Basic income could give people the leverage to walk away from those situations.
So it's about having real choices, not just the illusion of choice.
Exactly. It's about giving people the power to shape their own lives, pursue their goals, and contribute to society in ways that are meaningful to them.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
What basic income is, the historical context, and some of the main arguments in favor of it. It sounds pretty good so far.
It does, yeah.
But I imagine there are some serious concerns.
Absolutely.
And criticisms, too.
There are valid questions about how it would work in practice.
Yeah.
Whether it would actually discourage people from working. And
of course, the big one.
Yeah.
How can we possibly afford it?
Right. That's the big question.
We'll tackle all those concerns head on in the next part of our deep dive.
We'll get into the
Stay tuned.
The nitty-gritty of it all.
Welcome back.
All right.
So we've laid out the basic idea of basic income and why some people think it's kind of a game changer.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest, it sounds too good to be true, right?
Right.
What about the downsides? Like, the first thing that talks into my head is,
what are the criticisms?
yeah, doesn't this just reward laziness?
That's a common concern, right?
Yeah.
The whole something for nothing argument.
Right.
But it really gets us thinking about, what we value as work. Think about all the unpaid labor that keeps society running,
Yeah.
caring for children,
Right.
elderly parents, volunteering in the community. That's valuable work,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't come with a paycheck.
It's true. We don't often put a dollar amount on those things,
We don't.
but they're essential. So are you saying basic income could actually recognize that, value that kind of contribution?
It challenges the idea that paid work is the only kind of work that matters.
Right.
And plus, remember that rentier economy concept we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
A lot of people are already getting something for nothing just by owning assets.
Right. Basic income could, level the playing field a bit.
Okay, that makes sense. But wouldn't this make people less likely to work at all?
That's the fear. Right. Like,
Yeah.
why bother if you're already getting a check?
Exactly.
But surprisingly, the evidence from real-world trials suggests the opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Studies from places like Namibia and India show that basic income can actually encourage people to work more, not less.
Wait, really? How does that work?
Well, think about it. If you have that basic security,
Yeah.
you're not as desperate to take any job that comes along. You can afford to be more selective.
Right.
Maybe, take a part-time job while you go back to school. Or even start your own business.
So it's less about handouts and more about giving people the breathing room to build a better future.
Exactly. standing points to the Canadian Income experiment.
Mm-hmm.
They found that while some people did work slightly fewer hours, it was mainly because mothers were taking more time with their newborns.
Oh, wow. Teenagers were staying in school longer.
That actually sounds pretty positive.
It is.
Investing in families and education.
Yeah.
But let's be practical here, Rana.
Okay.
Can we even afford to give everyone a basic income?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that, bankrupt the country?
That's the million-dollar question, literally.
Yeah, it is.
And to be fair, it's a complex issue. But Standing lays out some interesting ideas
Okay.
for how to fund basic income.
Mm-hmm.
One is redirecting existing subsidies.
Mm-hmm.
Governments spend massive amounts of money subsidizing industries,
They do?
sometimes even those that are harmful to the environment.
It's crazy how much money gets thrown around in subsidies.
Imagine if we redirected even a fraction of that money towards basic income.
Right.
It'd be a major shift in priorities,
It would.
but it could have a huge impact.
What about that taxing economic rent idea that Standing mentions?
Right, that's another potential source of funding.
Okay.
Remember, economic rent is income from owning things, not from actually working. So taxing those rents wouldn't discourage work or innovation.
Right.
It would just capture a portion of the unearned income generated from owning assets.
So it's kind of like saying, hey, if you're profiting from just owning stuff,
Yeah,
maybe you can share some of that with the rest of society.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
about ensuring everyone benefits from the collective resources we all share.
Right.
And there's another idea. Standing talks about sovereign wealth funds.
Mm-hmm.
These are investment funds owned by the government,
Okay.
often funded by things like natural resources.
Right.
The idea is to invest these funds for the long-term benefit of everyone and then distribute the returns as a kind of social dividend that could fund a basic income.
Isn't Norway doing something like that with their oil money?
They are.
Yeah.
And it's a model that other countries could potentially follow. It's about thinking long-term and ensuring that everyone benefits from the wealth generated by our shared resources.
Okay, so we've got redirecting subsidies, taxing unearned income from assets,
Yeah.
and these sovereign wealth funds.
Hmm.
But even with all that, wouldn't raising taxes to pay for basic income just, stifle the economy?
Well, Standing argues that tax rates in most developed countries are actually historically low.
Okay.
There's room to increase taxes on the wealthy and corporations without necessarily hurting economic growth.
So it's less about finding new money and more about using the money we already have differently.
That's a big part of it. Plus, remember all that bureaucracy we talked about with traditional welfare programs?
Yeah.
A single universal basic income payment could potentially streamline the system, saving money on administration and making sure the help gets to those who need it most.
So it seems like this is less about being pro or anti-tax
Right.
and more about being strategic about how we tax
Right.
and what we prioritize spending on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the affordability of basic income is as much a political question as an economic one. It comes down to what we value as a society and what kind of future we want to create.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground on the potential benefits and challenges of basic income, but all this talk of theory and hypotheticals, have we actually seen this put into practice anywhere?
We have.
Yeah.
And the results are pretty fascinating.
Okay.
In the next part, we'll take a look at those real-world experiments with basic income and see what lessons we can learn from them.
Don't go anywhere. All right, so we're back, and now it's time to see if basic income is just a pie-in-the-sky idea
Right.
or if it actually works in the real world.
Yeah,
We've got some fascinating case studies to dive into.
absolutely. We've talked a lot about the theory, but nothing beats seeing what happens when you actually put it to the test.
Right. So let's start with Namibia.
Okay?
They ran a pilot program back in 2008, giving a basic income to everyone in a particular village. What happened? Did people just sit back and relax, or did something unexpected occur?
Well, the results were pretty remarkable,
Yeah.
and not at all what some critics might have predicted.
Really?
Yeah, poverty levels in the village plummeted. Child malnutrition rates dropped significantly,
Wow.
and school attendance actually went up.
That's amazing. It sounds like it really made a difference in people's lives. But was it just about the money itself?
That's a good question.
Or was there something else going on?
The source material highlights that it wasn't just about handing out cash.
Okay.
It was about empowering people.
Right.
For example, some villagers were able to escape debt bondage
Oh, wow.
to landlords and moneylenders. They finally had the financial freedom to make choices that improved their lives.
Wow, that's a powerful example of how a little bit of security can really change things.
It is, yeah.
It wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about having the opportunity to thrive.
Exactly. And it shows how basic income can have these ripple effects, leading to positive changes that go way beyond just putting money in people's pockets.
Yeah. Okay, so Namibia was a pretty small-scale experiment.
Yeah.
What about those larger pilot programs in India?
Right.
What did they find?
The Indian pilots, which ran from 2011 to 2013, covered several villages in Madhya Pradesh.
Okay.
They provided a basic income to entire communities, and the results were very encouraging.
So similar positive outcomes as in Namibia.
Very much so. They saw reductions in poverty, improvements in nutrition and health,
Okay.
and a boost in economic activity.
Got it.
What's really interesting is that there were even reports of reduced crime rates.
Really?
Yeah, and a greater sense of community cohesion.
It sounds like basic income might have social benefits as well, not just economic ones.
That's right. It seems like having that basic security can reduce stress and create a more stable environment.
Yeah, for individuals and communities.
Exactly. And we're seeing this same kind of thinking popping up all over the globe now, right?
Yeah.
It's not just Namibia and India anymore.
Right, right. It seems like it's really gaining some traction.
It is. Basic income is gaining momentum worldwide. Standing's book mentions the Swiss referendum on basic income back in 2016.
Yeah.
While it didn't pass, it sparked a lot of public debate and brought the idea into the mainstream.
It's interesting how, even though it failed, those kinds of events can almost plant seeds in people's minds, right?
They do.
And open them up to these new possibilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It helps normalize the conversation.
Right.
And since then, we've seen pilot programs launched or planned in Finland, Canada, the Netherlands.
And there's a lot of buzz about it in the U.S. as well, right?
Definitely. Several cities and states are looking into basic income as a potential solution to issues like poverty, inequality,
Yeah.
and the changing nature of work.
So what does all this tell us? Is basic income the answer to all our problems?
Well, it's not a magic bullet, but the evidence is mounting that it could be a powerful tool for creating a more just and equitable society.
Right.
It challenges us to rethink our assumptions about work, value, and how we care for one another.
It really does feel like we're at a crossroads where
Yeah.
the old ways of doing things aren't working anymore.
They're not.
We need some fresh ideas, and basic income might be one of them.
That's precisely the point Standing makes.
Yeah.
The challenges we face today, from automation to climate change, they require bold solutions.
They do.
And basic income offers a framework for navigating an uncertain future while ensuring everyone has the opportunity to live a dignified life.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into basic income, what's a one big question you would want our listener to ponder?
Here's something to think about. As technology continues to advance and the nature of work continues to evolve, could basic income become less of a radical idea and more of a necessity?
It's a good question.
How would it affect your life, your community, your country? The future is uncertain, but exploring ideas like this is crucial for building a world that works for everyone.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit mind-blowing. Remember, this is just the start of the conversation. There's so much more to explore and learn. So keep digging, keep questioning, and keep imagining a better future.